The sun was setting over a small village, casting a warm orange glow over the thatched roofs of the houses. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming cherry blossoms and the gentle chirping of crickets. In a cozy little cottage, a young girl named Kiki was getting ready for bed. She put on her favorite hood, which her grandmother had made for her, and it was called the listening hood. Kiki's grandmother, Zukin, had told her that the hood had special powers, allowing the wearer to hear the whispers of the forest and the songs of the birds. Kiki loved to wear the hood and listen to the sounds of nature. She would often sit by the window, close her eyes, and let the gentle breeze carry the whispers of the trees to her ears. As Kiki snuggled into her bed, her mother, Mimi, came to tuck her in. "Good night, Kiki," Mimi said, giving her a gentle kiss on the forehead. "Remember, the listening hood will help you hear the lullaby of the forest." Kiki smiled and nodded, feeling the soft fabric of the hood around her head. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, letting the scent of the cherry blossoms fill her lungs. The room was quiet, except for the sound of the wind rustling through the leaves outside. Kiki's eyes grew heavy, and she felt herself drifting off to sleep. But just as she was about to fall asleep, she heard a faint whispering in her ear. It was the sound of the forest, calling to her. "Kiki, come and listen," the trees whispered. "We have a story to tell you." Kiki sat up in bed, her heart beating with excitement. She looked out the window and saw the moon rising high in the sky. The forest was bathed in a soft, silvery light, and the trees seemed to be swaying gently in the breeze. Kiki felt the listening hood growing warmer on her head, as if it was urging her to get up and explore the forest. Mimi saw Kiki sitting up in bed and smiled. "The forest is calling to you, isn't it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kiki nodded, and Mimi handed her a small lantern. "Take this with you," she said. "And remember, the listening hood will guide you on your journey." Kiki took the lantern and got out of bed, feeling the soft floorboards beneath her feet. She was ready to embark on an adventure, with the listening hood as her guide. The night air was cool and crisp, filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the sound of crickets chirping. Kiki walked out of the cottage and into the forest, the lantern casting a warm glow on the path ahead. The trees towered above her, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. Kiki felt the listening hood growing warmer on her head, as if it was guiding her deeper into the forest. She walked slowly, taking in the sights and sounds of the night, and letting the gentle rhythm of the forest lull her into a peaceful state. As Kiki walked deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller and the path grew narrower. The lantern cast flickering shadows on the trees, making it seem as though the forest was dancing around her. Kiki felt the listening hood guiding her, urging her to follow the path as it wound its way through the trees. The scent of blooming flowers filled the air, and the sound of crickets provided a soothing background hum. The forest was alive, and Kiki felt as though she was a part of it, connected to the trees and the creatures that lived among them. As she walked, the trees began to thin out, and Kiki found herself in a small clearing. In the center of the clearing was a beautiful pond, its surface reflecting the moon like a mirror. A small wooden bridge spanned the pond, and Kiki felt drawn to it, as though the forest was inviting her to cross over. She walked onto the bridge, feeling the wooden slats beneath her feet, and looked out over the water. The pond was home to a family of swans, and they glided effortlessly across the surface, their feathers shimmering in the moonlight. Kiki stood on the bridge, watching the swans, and felt a sense of peace wash over her. The listening hood was warm on her head, and she felt as though she could hear the swans singing a gentle lullaby. The music was soft and soothing, and Kiki felt her eyelids growing heavy. But she didn't want to sleep, not yet, because the forest was still full of wonders to explore. She looked around the clearing, taking in the sights and sounds, and noticed a small figure sitting on a rock at the edge of the pond. The figure was an old badger, with a kind face and a twinkle in his eye. He looked up at Kiki and smiled, and she felt a sense of friendship wash over her. "Welcome, young one," the badger said, his voice low and rumbling. "I've been waiting for you. My name is Burrow, and I'm the guardian of this forest." Kiki smiled, feeling a sense of wonder, and introduced herself. Burrow nodded, and invited her to sit with him on the rock. Kiki sat down, feeling the rough stone beneath her, and Burrow began to tell her a story. The story was about the forest, and the creatures that lived there, and the magic that flowed through the trees. Kiki listened, entranced, as Burrow spoke of the ancient rituals that took place under the light of the full moon. The story was like a dream, and Kiki felt herself becoming a part of it, as though she was one of the creatures that lived in the forest. As Burrow finished his story, the swans glided up to the edge of the pond, and looked up at Kiki with their big, round eyes. They seemed to be waiting for her, as though they wanted to show her something. Kiki stood up, feeling the listening hood guiding her, and followed the swans as they glided across the pond. The water was calm and peaceful, and Kiki felt as though she was walking on air. The swans led her to a small island in the center of the pond, and Kiki felt a sense of wonder wash over her. The island was home to a beautiful garden, filled with flowers that shone like stars in the moonlight. The scent of the flowers was intoxicating, and Kiki felt herself becoming drowsy, as though the forest was rocking her to sleep. The swans waddled along the path, their feathers glowing softly in the moonlight, and Kiki followed them, feeling the gentle rustle of the flowers against her legs. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming jasmine, and the sound of softly chirping crickets provided a soothing background hum. As she walked, the flowers seemed to grow taller and closer, until Kiki was surrounded by a sea of gentle colors and soft textures. The swans led her to a beautiful tree, its branches heavy with fragrant blossoms, and Kiki felt as though she had entered a dream world. The tree seemed to be singing a lullaby, its branches swaying gently in the breeze, and Kiki felt her eyelids growing heavy. She sat down at the base of the tree, feeling the soft grass beneath her, and the swans settled in around her, their feathers a gentle rustle against her skin. Burrow appeared beside her, his eyes twinkling in the moonlight, and he smiled as he saw the peaceful look on Kiki's face. "This is the heart tree," he said, his voice low and soothing. "It is the center of the forest, and the source of all its magic." Kiki looked up at the tree, feeling a sense of wonder, and Burrow continued to speak, his words weaving a spell of peace and tranquility. "The heart tree is a place of rest and renewal," he said. "It is where the creatures of the forest come to heal and to find peace." As he spoke, the swans began to sing, their voices a soft and gentle melody, and Kiki felt herself becoming one with the forest. The music was like a warm blanket, wrapping around her and holding her close, and she felt her worries and cares melting away. The moon was high in the sky, casting a silver glow over the forest, and Kiki felt as though she was bathed in its gentle light. The world seemed to be slowing down, becoming quieter and more still, and Kiki felt her breathing growing deeper and more peaceful. The swans' song grew softer, their voices fading into the distance, and Kiki felt herself becoming a part of the forest, her spirit merging with the trees and the flowers. Burrow's voice was the last thing she heard, his words a gentle whisper in her ear. "Sleep, little one," he said. "May the peace of the forest be with you." And with that, Kiki felt herself drifting away, her body becoming heavy and still, her mind quiet and calm. The forest was silent, the only sound the soft rustle of the leaves in the breeze. The swans had settled in around Kiki, their feathers a gentle rustle against her skin, and Burrow sat beside her, his eyes watching over her as she slept. The moon was high in the sky, casting a silver glow over the forest, and the world seemed to be at peace. The trees stood tall and still, their branches motionless in the calm air, and the flowers bloomed quietly, their scent filling the air with a gentle sweetness. The forest was a place of rest and renewal, and Kiki was a part of it, her spirit merged with the trees and the flowers. And as the night wore on, the forest grew quieter and more still, until everything was silent and peaceful, and the only sound was the gentle rustle of the leaves in the breeze.